Hello, and welcome to another episode of Space Marine Legions Explained. Today, we will discuss the tragic fall from grace of the Death Guard. 14th Legiones Astartes. Death Guard, the warriors of the 14th Legion, were the implacable heroes of unification. They were stalwart fighters who made endurance under fire the noblest of pursuits, ever overcoming the most nightmarish foes in the most inhospitable of war zones. Their ordinal was synonymous with resilience and unshakable courage, for unflinching determination and victory by any means. They cast down alien tyrants and warlords across 1,000 worlds and more, consigning scores of bellicose xenostrains to extinction. Few legions had beginnings as glorious as the Death Guard, nor ends as tragic. From heights of splendor, the Legion and its warriors became the very thing they once fought tirelessly against. Inhuman, unrecognizable, and soulless monsters of the dark. The very stuff of nightmares. Primogenitor, Mortarion, the Reaper. Cognomen Prior, the Dusk Raiders. Observe strategic tendencies, heavy infantry assault, attritional warfare, hazard and death zone warfare, Xenos eradication and purgation operations. Noteworthy domains: Barbarous, Allegiance, Traitoris, Perdita. The Dusk Raiders. The main bulk of the gene recruits for the 14th Legion were drawn from the warlike clans of Albia, and it was the traditions of those feared warlords which shaped their character. These earliest warriors were of especially stoic temperament and showed a gene-crafted aptitude for operating in the role of heavy infantry. They were experts at survival and endurance, and quickly gained a reputation as relentless and disciplined fighters. In defense, they were stubborn and indefatigable, able to stand unwaveringly against the heaviest weapons fire and hold their position to the last living body and bolt shell if needed. In attack, they systematically destroyed a given target, crashing upon an enemy, excelling in close-range firefights and bloody attrition. The Legion favored the old Albion tactic of conducting major ground attacks at fall of night, when the shift of the light confounded an enemy's watch, and gathering darkness would shadow an advance across open ground, earning it the name of Dusk Raiders. Such was the Legion's reputation during the Unification Wars and the Great Crusade. The foes given the ultimatum of attack by the Dusk Raiders would often waver in their resolve, and their defenders would melt away as the coming of darkness drew near. As relentless as they were in attack, the Dusk Raiders were known to be honorable opponents as well. Such honor extended only to worthy human foes. However, to the degenerate, the mutant, and the alien, no mercy was given, and when destruction was called for, nothing would stay the Legion's hand. The Dusk Raiders fought unwaveringly in the Great Crusade for almost a century, becoming self-reliant and taking a quiet, stubborn pride in their many martial triumphs. When reunification with their primarch finally came, it was not to be long hoped for catharsis, for instead a pall fell across the Legion. Under this shadow, the Dusk Raiders were broken down, and only the Death Guard remained. The Reapers. The Death Guard fought tirelessly in the pursuit of the liberation of mankind, displaying a fervor the Great Crusade had never known. Mortarion carried an unshakable determination that mankind should be free of oppression and terror, and that victory, earned without restraint, limit, or mercy, was justified. Nor did he balk in the face of horrific rates of attrition. This was Barbarous's bleak creed of war. The Legion's restless and indomitable fleet plowed the cold void from one campaign to the next, resupplying in transit and never pausing but to make war. Its warriors did not garrison nor build, they only tore down and slew, coldly, determinately, and with inexorable progress of a contagion or a tsunami wave, and worlds fell before them. The Death Guard cared little for heraldry, badges of honor, or emblems of rank. Instead, their armor was decorated with the damage of battle itself, marks of their endurance. As the Great Crusade wore on, the Legion's appearance became increasingly sinister, as did its reputation. Strange rituals of inhaling or imbibing toxins became commonplace. The Legion's Librarius was disbanded thanks to Mortarion's hatred of witchery, and Mortarion spoke adamantly against Legion battle psychers at Nicaea. The Legion also did not balk from the use of widely hated alchem weapons and rad munitions, regularly consuming planets in phosphex fire and expunging life with viral payloads disdained by the rest of the Imperium. Soon, stockpiles of these weapons of last resort were the reserve of the 14th Legion, its cruel master dealing death and devastation to entire star systems with impunity. The Great Crusade had set out to save worlds, however, not to destroy them, and by association with these weapons, the Legion was consigned to dark corners and only the most nightmarish of campaigns. Ranks of Macabre. Mortarion possessed a razor-sharp intelligence and a flair for organizational simplicity and efficiency. The Death Guard fought as one body, often led from the front by their primarch. Obedience and order was absolute and expected, and a clear, unbroken chain of command ran like blood in the Legion's veins. No formal heraldry was maintained, and only the ranks outside of highly specialized roles were those of the commanders of the 7 Grand Companies, and their subordinate captains and sergeants. When an officer died in battle, his successor stepped into place swiftly and decisively without need for orders, and so the Legion's chain of command was seamless even under the heaviest losses. The Legion was fundamentally organized around infantry, with each warrior of the Legion on foot, carrying the utilitarian panoply required to fight anywhere, hold any ground, and destroy any enemy with resilience and resolve. Individual Space Marines were equipped as well as possible to operate for extended periods without resupply or support if needed, carrying a combination of bolter and close combat blade, broad trench daggers, and even the heavy slashing kukra and warth scythes of Barbarous. These simple but brutal and efficient weapons were the hallmark of the Legion. The Legion lacked extensive elite units, with only a few exceptions. It made use of dreadnoughts and units equipped with Terminator armor. The Death Shroud was singled out by Mortarion for their skill at arms and their proven endurance. They formed Mortarion's silent bodyguard, and at least 2 of their number remained within 49 paces of their primarch at all times. The Grave Wardens were specialized alchem destroyers who brought a lingering, ugly death wherever they walked. However, such units were seldom seen en masse in the Death Guard's battle ranks, but Mortarion believed that even a single power-armored legionary could kill a world given enough time and endurance. The Primarch, Mortarion. Barbarous, the world on which the young Mortarion fell, was sinister and lethal. Its colossal mountains perpetually shrouded in poisonous fogs that could strip flesh from bone, while the valleys far below were a realm of perpetual gloom. It was the domain of savage alien overlords who ruled over an entrapped and preyed upon human population as cruel and terrible gods. Mortarion was captured as an infant and trained by the most terrible of these overlords to become a living weapon. Eventually escaping his prison, Mortarion learned that he was kin not to the monstrous beings which held him captive, but to the humans they preyed upon. Swearing vengeance, he organized the feral human inhabitants of Barbarous and brought death and annihilation to the Xenos, an act he would repeat on hundreds of worlds when reunited with his legion. Mortarion was a towering and silent figure, his flesh gaunt and pale, and his black eyes hollow and haunted from the waking nightmare he had lived. He was a taciturn, remorseless lord that brooked no disagreement and sought above all justice and revenge. To the Dusk Raiders, the very graven image of Terror's Grim Reaper came before them as their new master. His words to them were simple and delivered in a harsh whisper that nevertheless carried to each and every one. "You are my unbroken blades, my death guard. By your hands shall justice be delivered, and doom shall stalk 1,000 worlds." And with that, the Dusk Raiders were no more. This has been the Death Guard of the Great Crusade. Thank you for watching.